Hello and welcome to episode 27, Herfinance Talk. My name is Sue Diamond and I'm your host. And our goal is to provide our listeners with inspiring and encouraging experiences by sharing the journeys and successes of other women with a variety of topics that are related to financial empowerment, so you can create the life that you want to live. Thank you for joining us today and investing in your financial well-being. Herfinance Talk is brought to you by the Herfinance Club, and our mission is to socialize the idea that it's okay for women to talk about money, because knowledge is power, and when that knowledge helps you become more independent, it translates to empowerment. Women empowering women is a mantra we love to live by, and one that has helped us to inspire women for decades. Where would we be without each other? But without further ado, let me welcome today's guest, Myrna Beth Haskell, founder and executive editor at Sanctuary Magazine. Thank you for being with us today.
Hi there, Sue. I'm so happy to be here with you. I love what you're doing, and so this should be fun.
Absolutely. I'm just going to share with our listeners a quick background on you, and then I'll let you expand on that. Myrna has over 30 years of experience in the publishing industry as a feature writer, a self-syndicated columnist. She's also an author and an editor. And after working for decades as a freelance journalist for various publications across the United States and abroad, she founded Sanctuary Magazine in 2016, an online publication for women created with heart and soul. And Myrna's passion for supporting women is apparent through her work with Sanctuary and as a board member for the National Association of Women Artists, the first fine arts organization for women, which was, I believe, founded in 1889. And I met at a local networking group, and Myrna recently interviewed me for Sanctuary Magazine. And I learned from that what a wonderful asset Sanctuary is for empowering women. And I knew then that I had to invite you
My goodness,
on
thank you.
Herfinance Talk. So thank you again for being here. And I'd love to open up the conversation and have you expand on your story, man. Where you from and what drew you into becoming a journalist or writer? And then tell us a little bit about what inspired you to launch Sanctuary Magazine.
Okay, well, that's a lot, so I'll try to do my best too. So I grew up in Woodstock, New York, and, I had a happy childhood with two great parents, a brother and a sister. I went to college, and actually I wasn't a journalist major. I was an English lit major. I have both my undergraduate degree and my master's degree in English literature, but writing was always a passion of mine. I always loved to write. I actually started out with some published pieces in lit journal type publications and book reviews and things like that. And I got into the consumer magazine writing when my children were very, very small. And that's when, we all started using computers and email and all of that. And you could start doing things more virtually. This was in, around 1997. And I had a wonderful freelance business for years. And I worked in all types of capacities in the industry. And so if I'm going to talk about, the inspiration behind Sanctuary, really it was about, I was ready for a transition in my career. I had done a little bit of everything. I had been a regular contributor, a section editor, a syndicated columnist. I had the book that came out. I was helping other editors and publishers with parts of their magazines. And I was just ready for that next step where I would be running things, in charge of the voice and the direction and the overall content of a publication. And so that's why Sanctuary. I was working with two women initially when we very first started, and it wasn't quite a magazine at that point when we came up with the concept of empowering women and having an inspirational publication with no angst. There's so much negative news and political angst out these days, and we just wanted to inspire people and have a space that was feel good, but also gave lots of good educational information. We do have a finance section, Sue, which you'd be happy to know about. But, the arts and women who make a difference and health and wellness and all of that stuff that our entire community can get behind.
I think, as you mentioned, the news and turning it on and all the horror stories
Can be depressing.
Oh my goodness, so much so, especially during COVID, and women are worried about finances and because of the market. And I'm always saying you can't control the market, but what you can control is not looking at your statements every single day, not listening to the news on finances.
That's pretty scary right now, right?
If anything, we know that COVID has shown us that we need an emergency fund. It needs to be at least 6 months. The market has always gone up and down. There's no such thing as getting rich quick. It's about tying your financial goals in with your intentions and what's important to you. Investing in the market is more about the long term, which allows it to recover. If you're just playing around with money and gambling, like going to a casino, then that has to be money that you can afford to lose.
That's right. Your play money, right? Oh, I'm going to put this much down. I'm stopping right there, not spending another dime if I start to lose. I know we talked a little bit when you were on my show, Sue, about Money Story. I don't know if I was really supposed to talk about that just before, but I do have a bit of I love some of the things you said, so I want to expand on a few of those. Is that okay?
Oh, absolutely. This is what we're here for, because again, as women, we tend to think we're the only one. So when we hear about other people's experiences and their stories, it's really helpful to us in our journey.
Yeah. And you have such a healthy relationship with finances and money, and that's why you're able to help women. And I feel like my money story is similar to that, actually. I grew up in a household where money wasn't really a problem because my dad was a senior executive with IBM and didn't have to worry about money. However, both of my parents came from a very blue collar, hardworking, family situation growing up. And so they instilled on all three of us, my sister, my brother, and myself, how important it is to be fiscally conservative, to save, to budget, no matter how much money you have. Again, you mentioned, having that emergency fund, making sure that if a rainy day comes, and it often does, as we all know, right, that you don't completely freak out, because here you have that rainy day fund, you have something to fall back on. And you had mentioned COVID. And I took those early lessons about saving and respecting the dollar and working hard and looking at the consequences of the future, not just what's happening in the here and now, and making sure you're ready for that, into my adult life. And then I took those same ideas into my business when I started Sanctuary. And, COVID was so tough for all of us, right, Sue? And I had basically, and I'm so glad I did this because we launched in 2016. So it's not like I was around 10 or 15 years, before COVID hit, but I had taken all of the extra monies that I had, not that there was tons of it, but I just put it right back into the business because I was always thinking in the back of my mind, what if something happens? I want to be able to continue with this. I don't want to have to be worried and full of stress over money about the business now, when I always had control over my personal finances. So I think I took those things with me, and it really was a huge help through, the height of the pandemic that I did do that. So I'm so glad you brought that up. That's why I wanted to just expand a little bit on that, because, as a business person, we have to plan for the future. We have to have different buckets for different things, including emergency, including something that might happen with somebody on your staff, right? I mean, you never know what that might be. It's not even necessarily external things like the markets, like a recession. Sometimes it's, your own in-house things that happen in your company. So I'm glad you brought that up, because I think more and more people need to hear that, even if they're not entrepreneurs, about their own money situation.
I think it was Sally Krawcheck said, nothing bad happens when women have more money.
Yeah. They're afraid though often to ask for it, right? Aren't they often afraid to ask for it? Have you found that? I know I'm generalizing everyone who's listening, so I understand that. But I think men lots of times have an easier time asking for money than women. Do you have thoughts on that?
Do. It's tied into a number of different things. Gender differences in financial inclusion put women at a further disadvantage. And as we've mentioned, especially in times of a crisis, and we lack the financial literacy, tongue tie, skills and confidence needed to invest our money. And that also ties into the equation when it comes to how we can achieve our full financial potential. And a part of that is if we're going to close that gender pay gap, then one of the things we have to be doing is we have to be coming to the table and being prepared to negotiate. And
to understand the lingo and everything there too, right? To not
yeah,
feel insecure about that piece of it, to educate
right.
yourself.
It's not about, I deserve a raise. It's about, okay, what skill set and values am I bringing to the company? And being able to outline how you've helped the company move forward or help move the mission forward, collecting materials so that you're armed to go in, knowing and having some research on the industry that you're in and what people are typically paid in your industry with your skill set. But the one main problem here is that we have to be able to sell ourselves. And that's where we fall down. We're really good about sharing other people's attributes and how good they are at something, but we are not good about telling people how good we are at things. And I can't remember if I shared this with you on your show. I grew up in Liverpool in the UK. And if you said to your friends that you were good at something, they tell you, stop showing off. So I think women tend to think if I start talking about how good I am at something, then I'm kind of showing off a little bit. But the bottom line is, if we don't sell ourselves, who else will?
Right.
So I think that's an important point, Myrna, in terms of the magazine. What I really liked is that you address across the board and you have the whole body and spirit side. For me, when we talk about wealth, health is tied into wealth.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
that's really important. And I think that's wonderful that you look at that aspect. You said you built out and what like
Little by little, we were adding all kinds of sections. So we started right out, Sue, with the arts, humanitarian pursuits, and health and wellness, but we expanded on that. Now we have alternative therapies, personal safety articles, relationships articles, not just about mindfulness and physical health, but I've heard you say, women, don't want to brag about themselves or say what they're worthy of or talk about their skills because they're worried that it's going to sound like they're bragging or whatever that piece is. And that almost ties in a little bit too to women being caregivers and always taking care of everybody else too first besides themselves. So a big part of our sanctuary community is letting women know that they're not alone when it comes to issues with work-life balance, stress. A lot of women who read our magazines have high stress, jobs. How do you bring that back? How do you take care of you so that you can take care of your financial health and your physical health? What are all these different ways that we can make ourselves feel better and have more energy and all of that? So yeah, that's a lot of, what we do. We say we empower and inspire women with compelling content because really everything that's in the magazine has some sort of an inspirational source behind it. So yeah, I think we're doing well based on all of the letters and different things that we hear from readers saying that they're really enjoying what we do.
Right. It's important because I know in terms of, as you'd mentioned, it's in our nature to be a caretaker. And so we naturally take care of everybody else before we take care of ourselves. But if we don't take care of number one, we're not going to be in a position to take care of everybody else.
That's right.
So,
Yep.
So that's really important.
And, we all have challenges too, right? With, just because you're an entrepreneur, you started a business doesn't mean you know all about the business. If you want me to get a little into that, I will. I don't know.
Yeah, touch upon that because I'm sure there's a number of our listeners and especially today, as they're referring to it as the big resign, following COVID, that women are looking at, I want more flexibility that my corporate job isn't offering me. So what can I do? So we're seeing a lot more women transition over to the entrepreneur side.
Yes. And, and just real quickly from my perspective, I knew so much about the industry, like all different parts of it. So I didn't realize going in all of these different other business aspects that I had to kind of learn on the fly, hit the ground running. I mean, the social media stuff, the graphic creation, the just like learning the ins and outs of like web builds. You as an entrepreneur have to know a little bit about all of the pieces of the business, even if you have other people helping you, right? So I already was an expert in content creation and editorial calendars and themes for issues and working with other writers and team building and all of that. But it was all the other stuff, about the business that I really had to learn on the fly. And I think that the way you become successful even with those challenges is by talking to other women business owners, networking. You mentioned networking and how we met each other at a networking event. I called industry people. I worked with I didn't realize the ginormous network that I had of industry people when I was in it with my freelance business. But I had all these publishers and editors and writers that I knew that I could go to when I was having issues, particularly the publishers, because that was the side I knew less about. So I just wanted to mention, since part of what you do too is empowering women, right? I think we feed off of each other's energy to a certain extent. When you can get a group of women in a room to talk about their challenges and listening to others and how they overcame things, I think that there's really something to that. And I think that the networking is a big piece of it, besides obviously, reading or going to a class or whatever it may be. But the networking piece, talking and learning from other business women in your industry is so, so important. It helped me a lot with those areas that I needed to beef up on.
I think there's a saying that behind every successful woman, there's a community of other successful women.
Yay.
That.
Yes, yes.
I too belong to a number of female groups. And even when I worked in corporate and worked in nonprofits for fundraising, I was always in outside groups because my position was the one position. There wasn't anybody else that you could go to learn from.
Oh, okay. So you sort of just had a lot of time to figure out things on your own.
I was always used to joining groups that could help me move forward, and they were always predominantly women. I've always felt the strength of feminine energy and sisterhood and considered it to be a really amazing force for greatness. And a great deal of my emotional and mental strength comes from the deep connections and bonds with the women in my life. And I think it's so important, especially if you're an entrepreneur and there's just you starting out, sharing the journey. That's an important part, isn't it, of your personal,
yes,
from the perspective I look at, financial growth, because, it's going to help you learn from others in similar circumstances and situations, as well as be able to share and contribute to the journey of others. It helps you feel a part of something larger than yourself, because
yes,
you could be the receiver or provide the emotional support to keep other people motivated and involved. So I always like to refer to myself as the recovering perfectionist.
I won too. How much I've recovered, but
But I think what the group does is it allows you to grow more accepting and approving of yourself.
yeah, that's absolutely true. And I think because we're natural caregivers, we're also pretty good with relationships, right? And so that whole team, collaboration part of the business world, I think that many, many women are very good at that innately, working with others and accepting different points of view and all of that. So I think that's important too. I have a great team of women who
Right.
work with Sanctuary Magazine, a great team.
Oh, that's wonderful. One of the other things that I want to bring up, because I was talking to a woman the other day and we were talking about negotiating skills, and she was really good at negotiating. And she said her boss was a female in one position that she was in. She was negotiating. She said, her boss had said, I don't think you should really go there. So her response was, oh, this is a bit awkward. As women, it's really important that we're leading the way for other women as well, and that we're
Yeah.
supportive of other women. That's the key. Sometimes we might be a little afraid if we're in a position and don't feel comfortable advocating for somebody. And I'm talking about if they deserve it. Absolutely, we should look at how we can help one another.
Right. And I think not every woman, right, is the greatest collaborator and team player. And I think there are jealousies too in different industries and stuff. But I think in general, women who do join networking type groups and try to seek out and collaborate with other businesswomen like you and I are doing right now, Sue, right? I mean, we learned about each other. And right away, at least I know from my end, I thought, oh my gosh, how can I work with Sue? You know, I love what she's doing. And I think that women that are going to be open to that are going to be more giving type, you know, sharing what they learned with others and not feeling like they have to be out in the forefront all the time. Do you know what I mean?
Naturally, we're a tribe. We like to hang out with other women and learn from them.
Yeah.
You know, time goes so fast. So,
oh my goodness. Okay. Sorry, because I've been really, you know, long-winded. Went really fast. So.
Well, I always like to ask the guests, how do you assist women? And you should, the mission behind the magazine, but you had talked to me a little bit about focusing on youth. And I didn't mention this earlier, but you're the author of Lions and Tigers and Teens, which is about expert advice in terms of support for the conscientious parent. Do you want to expand on that a little bit?
Yes, absolutely. So, well, what we do in Sanctuary is we promote women, right? So we promote women artists, philanthropists, health experts, you know, we promote women. We're a positive space. And what we do every August is we promote young women under the age of 25. The idea is to give spotlight to emerging gifted young art, women who have already started nonprofits or they've done a lot of community service. And the idea is that we want to give them some promotion to get that early career a jump start. And I have to tell you, it's one of the most fun issues we do all year long. It gets a huge audience because we bring in the young audience. You know, our sweet spot demographic is more the 45 to 65 age group, you know, women still working and in their careers, but more moving into that midlife. But now all of the young people know about our special issue. You know, they follow us and they appreciate what we're doing even the rest of the year, which is really nice. And so we're a community. We follow up with these young people we have in the magazine, Sue. I had Alexis Morast years ago, I think it was in 2017, and her music career has really taken off. I've shared some things since she's had some of these big shows at really large venues and put some ads in the magazine for her. And so we really feel like we're a good space for those young women, you know, just starting out that need a little boost early on. And we love to showcase them. So that's what we're doing with that. And we do have the one month of the year where we feature the men in our lives. So that's June for Father's Day issue. But the rest of the year, it's all about the women. Yeah, so I really enjoy it. I mean, I think a big part of what we do is to stay connected. We stay connected. We have a whole section in the magazine for our readers. It's called Guest Room. So there's expert sections where they write in on a topic each month and an expert in that field answers their questions. You know, we have this kindness and karma section. This month we had readers sending in inspirational photographs of their hometown. You know, so it makes the readers feel like they're really part of what we're doing, you know, so it truly is a community. It's not just a publication, it's a community. So, and I think that helps. I think that that's something that we're helping women with too. And it doesn't cost to view the content. We said that from day one. We wanted any woman anywhere, no matter what her means was, to be able to read our content. We didn't want to make it about the money in that way. So the way we survive is through our sponsorships, not through subscription. So that's another piece to it. We want it to be open to everyone anywhere.
Where can our listeners find all this fabulous content?
Okay, so we're at sanctuary-magazine.com. That's pretty easy to remember, I hope. Sanctuary-magazine.com.
Right.
And right from our homepage, you can get to all of our other spaces. We have a YouTube channel. We're throughout social media on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. We're also on Alignable, which is another space. We're on LinkedIn. So, readers can get to all those spaces that we have. We also share through Coffee and Conversation, where Sue is a guest. We have that and Team Talk and different virtual interviews and things. And some of those are also shared from our homepage. But you pretty much can navigate everything from the current issue from the homepage, and then you can dig into past issues at our NAPOR. But come and find us at sanctuary-magazine.com. We'd love to have you.
And I will be sure to share that in the show notes as well, Myrna.
Oh, great. That's so much. That's great.
Thank you for sharing your story and your expertise but all that you do for women in terms of empowering, inspiring, and supporting them. It's wonderful. I appreciate what you do. So thank you so much for that.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show, because this was really, I love what you do too, Sue. And you're helping a lot of people who struggle with money issues. And that's so, so important these days. So thank you so much for having me on the show. Truly appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure.
Yes.
So I'm just going to take the time to remind everybody that Herfinance Talk is brought to you by the Herfinance Club, and we want to support financial feminism, and that stands for financial inclusion and equality for women, not only relating to their earnings, but also to building and keeping wealth. We've got 3 takeaways, 3 quick steps to build your female financial confidence, become financially literate, have a conversation about money, tap into trusted resources. And just for your information, a book club is the perfect place for you to learn new strategies and ways thinking to create wealth and abundance. And that's why the Herfinance Club has created the Herfinance Book Club.
Oh, I love that.
And it's for women to get connected with other women who are looking to improve their financial knowledge, reach your goals, and get inspired for a richer life. So the club's going to provide a supportive community and monthly suggested readings. The club is for women of all ages and stages who want to learn more about personal finance in a supportive and fun environment. So whether you're just starting to think about finances or you've been working on building your wealth for years, we'd love to have you join us. And I will have the link, if you're interested, in the show notes. So you can go to herfinanceclub.com, book club. Again, thank you to our listeners for being here, and here's to your financial well-being until the next time. See you soon. Bye.